Hi everyone, welcome to today's lecture about applications for systems of linear equations. Let's get started. So just a recap of what we did in the first module, we learned about two different methods. The first was a graphing method, where you were given two different equations and you graphed them, and then you found their intersection, and that was the solution to the system of equations. The other method that we talked about was the substitution method. So you solved one equation for y, and then plugged that equation into the other one and solved for x, and then you used that x value, plugged it into one of the equations and got the y value, and that x and y was your solution. So that's just a reminder of what we went over in the last module. Now we're going to use what we learned about solving systems of equations and apply that to real-world word problems. So, just a general strategy of how we're going to do this. First, you want to identify your x and y variables. Second, you're going to create two equations that relate these two variables together. And then third, you're going to solve for a solution using most likely the substitution method. There are other methods that you can use, but that is primarily what we will be doing. So let's look at some examples on the following slides. Okay, our first example, it says, Tyler is catering a banquet for 250 people. Each person will be served either a chicken dish that costs $5 each or a beef dish that costs $7 each. Tyler spent $1,500 total on the banquet. How many dishes of each type did Tyler serve? So first we want to define our variables that we're going to be using. So it really doesn't matter which variable you call which one, just as long as you're consistent. So I'm going to say that x is going to represent chicken and y is going to represent beef. You could do it the other way around, just make sure that your equations reflect that. Okay, so number 2, we're going to write an equation including the total number of people that attended the banquet. So we know the total number of people was 250. So we're going to use that. We want to know how many people got chicken or beef. It's just going to be x plus y equals 250. So we know there were 250 people there. They had an option of chicken or beef, so chicken plus beef equals total number of people. Okay, then third, we're going to write an equation including the total amount of money spent. So in the word problem, I'm just going to highlight the information that we have. So we know it was $5 each for chicken and $7 each for beef. So I'm just going to reflect that with our variables. We have $5 per chicken and $7 per beef, and that is equal to our total of $1,500. So 5x plus 7y equals 1,500. Okay, now we're going to use these two equations and use the substitution method to find how many people got chicken and how many people got beef. So I'm first going to take the equation that we have in number 2 and solve for y, and I get y equals 250 minus x. And now I'm going to plug that into our equation in number 3. So I'm just going to replace the y in the equation with the y that we just solved for, and I get 1,500. And now I'll let you do the algebra, but you should get that 2x is equal to 250. So our x should be 125. If you plug that back into our y equation, you should get that y also happens to be 125. And you can check that your solution is right by plugging it back into these two equations and see if you get the right answers. And in fact, we do. All right, let's move on to the next example. All right, your teacher is giving a test worth 100 points. The test contains a total of 40 questions. Some questions are worth 2 points, and some questions are worth 4 points on the test. How many of each type of question are on the test? Okay, so first we want to define our variables. Again, it doesn't matter what you choose to represent what variable, just make sure you're consistent. So I'm going to say that X is a 2-point question. And Y is a 4-point question. Okay, so now we're going to write an equation that includes the total number of points. So we know from our story problem that there was a total of 40 questions. So there has to be some amount of 2-point questions and some amount of 4-point questions, and that's going to give us a total of 40. Okay, now we're going to write an equation including the total number of, oh, sorry, I just realized that I did the wrong one. This is the total number of questions. There we go. Okay, the total number of points. Okay, so we're given points right here. And we know that the 2-point question is worth 2 points by definition. So 2x, and then our 4-point question is worth 4 points. And there should be a total of 100 points. Okay, so now we have our two equations. So I'm going to choose to write the second equation in terms of y. So I'm going to have y equals 40 minus x. I'm going to plug that into the first equation. So I'm just going to replace y. And again, I'll let you guys work out the algebra, but you should get that 2x is equal to 60. So that means that x equals 30. And then if we plug that back in, we get that y equals 10. So our solution is that there are 30 2-point questions and 10 4-point questions. Hopefully you're kind of seeing how this is working. All right, example number 3. So this one's a little bit different. So it says the sum of two numbers is 17 and their difference is 29. What are the two numbers? Now you could definitely guess and check with this one, but let's use what we know about systems of equations to set up some linear functions so that we can find those two numbers quickly. So define your variables. I'm just going to say they're x and y. It doesn't really matter which is which. We just know there are two numbers, right? So the first equation, we're going to use this first line. The sum of two numbers is 17. So you just need to write that out. Sum means adding. So we're going to have x plus y equals 17. And then the second part is that their difference is 29. Difference means subtraction. So x minus y equals 29. Okay, so now we need to find what those two numbers are. So we are going to solve one equation for y. I'm going to solve the second one. I'm just going to add y to the other side and subtract 29. Now I'm going to plug that into the first equation. And we get 2x is equal to 46. So x equals 23. And then I'm going to plug that into that first equation that we have. Oh, I want to replace x with 23. So y equals negative 6. So our solution is 23 and negative 6. Their sum is 17 and their difference is 29. All right, so now it's your turn. We're going to move on to our in-class activity, which can be found in Module 2. You'll be in groups of 4. So check the People and then Groups tab to see what group you're in and take the time to work through that. Let me know if you have any questions.